Welcome to Politics Nation. I'm Al Sharpton. Tonight's lead, life imitating art in the Romney campaign. Folks, sometime Willis Romney's campaign for president is so hilarious, it seems like it comes from a book. It's called The Great Gatsby, all about the super rich and a big party in Long Island. Fittingly, that's where Mr. Romney went this week in a search of big money. Just days after parking his jet skis, Willard Romney hit the Hamptons fundraising circuit, and he was at the home of one of his 1% pals. His first event was a $25,000 a person affair at a billionaire's estate. But that wasn't even the big-ticket event of the day. That's right. An event held on the property with 9 fireplaces wasn't the big money maker. No. That was a $75,000 couple fundraiser, another billionaire, held at the home of David Koch. Yes, that David Koch, the billionaire whose corporation plans to funnel $400 million to defeat President Obama. Now, let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with making money. What's wrong is that Romney's policies are aimed to benefit the 1%, the people who can donate $25,000 a head. They get a say. The rest of us, no dice. No wonder he says corporations are people. No wonder he thinks we don't need more firefighters. No wonder he makes $10,000 bets. And according to newspaper reports, this event seemed right out of the pages of The Great Gatsby. The lawn started at the beach and ran toward the front door for a quarter of a mile, jumping over sundials and brick walls and burning gardens. Finally, it reached the house, drifting up the side in bright vines as though from the momentum of its run. In fact, the Romney event was so unbelievable that I brought in some of our friends from the politicalsubversities.com to do a reenactment. What you're about to hear are things actual Romney supporters actually said to the media at this big fundraiser. These are real quotes.
I don't think the common person is getting it. We've got the message. But my college kid, the babysitter, the nails ladies, all these people who have the right to vote, they don't get what's going on. I just feel that if you're lower income, one, you're not as educated. Mm-hmm. Two, they don't get how it works.
Right. Common people don't get it. Don't understand how it works. Are you serious?
He is a socialist. Mm-hmm. His idea is find a problem that doesn't exist and get government to intervene.
A socialist? Really? So much for the people who got the message.
It's not helping the economy to pit the people who are the engine of that economy against the people who rely on that engine. He's basically been biting the hand that fed him in 2008. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Since when is trying to make the system more fair biting the hand that fed you? These guys can't be serious.
Did you see the wait out there? I mean, I kept asking, is there a VIP entrance? Because, well, we are VIP.
You're a VIP. So that means you don't wait in line anywhere. These are actual quotes from people at the Romney event. They are funding Mr. Romney's campaign. They're the same people who think common folk don't get it. But it's really them who don't get it. Do we really want them calling the shots for this country? Joining me now is Bob Shrum, a Democratic strategist who ran Ted Kennedy's campaign against Mitt Romney in 1994, and Alicia Menendez, a host of HuffPost Live. Thanks to you both for being here tonight. And before we start, I want to give a big shout out to the actors and actresses from our friends at Political Subversities. They perform every Saturday at the People's Improv Theater right here in New York. Bob, let me start with you. This was so brazen. Billionaires, the Koch brothers. Now, Bob, you've run a lot of campaigns. How will this play?
Oh, it's not going to play well at all. Look, it was a spectacle that goes to a point that I'm going to make in my column in the Daily Beast tomorrow. Romney's not just a rich candidate. He's a candidate by the rich, for the rich, who's indifferent and insensitive to the middle class. You know, the guy you quoted there who said, or that the improv guys quoted, who said that Obama's a socialist, he's a bozo who runs a restaurant in the Hamptons called the American Hotel. I've eaten there. It's way overpriced. Food's gone downhill. Well, he ought to pay a price for this. Maybe some of the Democrats who live out there, and there are actually a lot of them, could go eat someplace else, and they'd actually get a better meal. Look, what this was greed on parade. A whole group of people who care only about their own bottom line. They don't care about what happens to the country in the sense of creating fairness, economic opportunity. Unbelievable that some woman would say, people in the middle class and lower middle class, they're not educated enough. They don't have the brilliance of my judgment. I hope everybody in America gets a chance to see and understand what went on in the Hamptons this weekend.
Alicia, that is why we wanted to dramatize this. Because fine if you have wealthy people supporting you and all, you know, in politics, all of us do. I think it's a bit brazen that not one but two billionaires host you over the weekend, but fine. But the language of people, like people that could vote, my babysitter, nail people, they just don't understand how a country ought to work. That kind of arrogance is what I think is very offensive to the American public.
They talk about the politics of envy, but perhaps they should talk about the politics of condescension. You know, when you talk about working class people, middle class people in this way, that's when you look at Romney's poll numbers, you come to understand why a majority of Americans view him as being out of touch. It's not about any one thing, right? It's not about the car for your elevators. It's not about your wife saying that she's never considered herself wealthy. It's all of this in the aggregate. And the other problem is it lacks logic, because if the lady at the nail salon, if the college kid went and looked at the policies that Romney is proposing, they don't benefit them, right? Tax breaks for the wealthiest 1% doesn't help the woman who does your nails put food on the table. It doesn't help her plan for retirement. It doesn't help her in any measurable way.
Now, Bob, though, does this damage Romney politically? As people see these billionaires 2 in 1 weekend, Koch, who's putting up $400 million to defeat the president, these kinds of attitudes that we dramatized tonight, give me the politics of that to the average voter as they see this.
Well, first, it's not that he's rich. As you suggested earlier, that's not the problem. We've had rich candidates, Franklin Roosevelt, the Kennedys, Theodore Roosevelt, but people thought they were not in there fighting for their own class. In fact, Roosevelt was called a traitor to his class. They were fighting for ordinary, hardworking Americans who needed a fair break.
Right.
Romney, over and over and over again, and not just in this event, gives the sense that he doesn't care about those hardworking Americans. He doesn't understand them. He doesn't have any concern for their lives. There's an empathy gap, and that's going to correlate with what happens in the voting in the fall.
No, Alicia, he's correct, because I remember growing up in New York, I was brought as an elementary school student to Franklin Roosevelt's Hyde Park home. Wealthy estate. We all looked up to it because they said this was the guy that cared for common people. Mm-hmm. So you saw the opulence, but you saw it in the context of this guy came out and fought for us. And he didn't distort the truth. Look at this. Romney claimed the president doesn't have a job plan. Listen.
I've got a 5-step plan.
We've always encouraged young people, take a shot, go for it. Take a risk, get the education, borrow money if you have to from your parents, start a business.
So he's talking about his plan, which no one knows what the plan is. He attacks the president on Friday when the jobs numbers come. We still don't know a substantive plan. And before we can get out of his attack of the president on the job numbers Friday, he's gallivanting around doing a great Gatsby reenactment.
I mean, this should be a wonderful time for Mitt Romney. The jobs report was disappointing. The president said so himself. That presents an opening and an opportunity. But rather than taking that opportunity to step up and offer real leadership and say, here's how a jobs report would be different under President Romney, he takes the opportunity to challenge the president, to attack the president. And really, when you look at what Americans want, they want answers, they want real leadership, and they're simply not getting it from this candidate.
And I sense, Bob, there's some kind of nervousness even among his own party. Even John Boehner says this weekend, well, America's not going to fall in love with Romney. You've run big campaigns, presidential campaigns. Are you sensing that even his party, established leadership and campaign people are a bit nervous about how he's conducting himself?
Yeah, in private, a lot of them will say that he's an awkward candidate. He doesn't even have a sliver of Ronald Reagan's gift. For example, Reagan was a conservative, but he could speak to the common man. He could somehow or other reach in and appeal to those Reagan Democrats. Romney, over and over and over again, bets $10,000. All the other things that you cited at the start of this, says $347,000 isn't very much money. And he makes himself completely out of touch with the concerns of ordinary people. And that's what all the polling is showing. I mean, the Democrats have a 19-point advantage on cares about and understands the needs of the middle class in the latest NBC Wall Street Journal poll. Romney can't win if those numbers stay that way.
Alicia, do you think that as he continues to be identified with the 1%, as we continue to see weekends like this and jet skiing, will this drive out a base vote for the Democrats? Will people get so offended that they will come out in bigger numbers saying we can't allow these 1% elitist type to turn back the clock on the things that we value?
I don't know that that is actually what's going to drive out a base vote. I think good organization. I think there are a lot of structural challenges, registering, re-registering people, turning them out, getting them to re-buy into the Obama narrative. I think the anti-Romney will account for a part of the Democratic base that is already fired up, that has watched this primary process. But I think when you talk about the Democratic base, that comes down to basic blocking and tackling.
And we're going to have to get around some voter suppression schemes, but we'll talk about that later in the program. Alicia Menendez and Bob Schrump, thank you both for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rev.
Coming up, President Obama throws down the gauntlet against Republicans. He's calling on them to roll back the Bush tax cuts for the rich and make the middle class the real priority in America. Plus, decoding the GOP talking points about Mitt Romney. The scientist here at Politic Nation has created a fantastic new machine that translates Republican speak into English. And a Republican fundraiser for Romney is now in charge of helping educate voters in Pennsylvania. What could possibly go wrong?